actually using Soothe to get rid of a lot of that weird top end harshness.
Soothe 2?
Yeah, because you can't get one now, so they get you for 2.
Oh, you could get it. You can get it if you buy 2. Like they give
you sure you can. Yeah,
a download of 1.
Yeah, you got to spend $250 on the new one just to get the old one, but it doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I just learned that you have to oversample it, like, to really get good results. And I found that to be because I was having issues with it. I was like, I don't know, it's just taking out too much vibe, and then I oversampled it. And I was like, oh, this is more subtle. This is more like.
Where do you change that?
I don't know. There's like it's in the thing. I don't know. Yeah, it's in the settings. It says it says oversample. It's like on the, I guess, like towards the middle left side of the in the center-ish.
I didn't even know it was a thing, to be honest with you.
Visualizing the GUI. I don't know. So
is that a Logic thing? Maybe
there's a hot tip. No, I don't think so.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think so.
I'll have to look.
People were telling me like it's all about the oversampling, because I was kind of like dismissing it. I was like, I was like, I could get more out of the Pro Q3 with like a bit of like notching. That would work better for me. And then I tried the oversampling, and I was like, oh, maybe this is a bit cleaner. It's kind of working more the way I want.
Yeah, I know the Kush stuff does the oversampling. I don't know. It's just on. I mean,
I don't do a lot of oversampling. I just
I'll leave it. If it's going to make it sound
work.
better, I'll turn it on. The computer
try
can handle
it.
You
never know.
Yeah.
You could commit to it. You could just bounce
this track was the first time I used Soothe, just because nothing I was trying, like dynamic EQ, none of that was taking that harshness out. Which again, their rough was pretty bright and brittle, but for some reason, in this context, it sounded way too harsh. So Soothe was this made me grab it
at like 2 or 4K or something.
Yeah. He has his voice is up in that range. Even like 6 kind of jumps out sometimes, but he's got that 4.5. That's where it is. It gets pretty bright on him.
Yeah,
the
it still sounds super. Yeah, but it also super right. But it also sounds super present and energetic. It still sounds great with after the Soothe.
And then I am adding my own saturation to that also. So
why does every Monday feel like hell?
That sounds a lot warmer.
Yeah. And this is the J37 tape.
Oh yeah, the
tape thing. And
people love that one.
Yeah. I don't know if it's really doing anything with the tape. It's just pushing that saturation knob on it. And again, it's on another fader, so I'm blending that in. So
right.
I mean, that fader is pretty low. It's down like 14.
Why does every Monday feel like
I push it up,
Why do I wake up an empty shell?
But that is, that's a subtle saturation just adding in. Just because, he likes the saturation on his voice. I was just trying to get it a little thicker in the mix without just breaking it up and sounding too brittle.
Nice. Any other tips on the vocals? Did you compress it at all, or was it all just automation?
This song is actually not a lot of vocal automation, but that's because of all the saturation is kind of really keeping the levels in check.
You could use saturation in lieu of compression is something I've been learning.
Yeah, I do a lot of that because I don't like compressors.
Compression.
You're talking about. So, and I like distortion. I like a lot of distortion. So there's a lot of distortion on this track, but you don't really hear it. There's a lot of distortion in a lot of songs that I do, and you don't hear it. It's just I use that to kind of keep the dynamics in check.
Right. I feel like that's like the secret sauce for you. It's like that's like the energy, all that.
Yeah.
All those like little mini distortions.
Yeah, you can really like shape a sound without having to crush something to get it to come through. Just add a little bit of distortion to it.
Are you usually doing like full band distortion, or is it kind of more like
I'll filter it?
Regions?
I might. Sometimes I'll roll off the bottom end before I distort it, and other times I'll do it after. But usually, if I'm distorting something, there's usually like a way to filter it or EQ it after, just to get it to be in the right spot.
And then again, just pushing the fader up till it sounds good.
Yeah. So this song, which I do a lot of, is parallel vocal compression. So there's the lead vocal doesn't really have any compression on it. Actually, there's none, and then that splits off to a parallel 1176 and LA2A. And the 1176 is like slow attack, fast release, and I hit it pretty hard, and that gets all like it lets all his like consonants come through, and also brings up the low level stuff. And And then the LA2A is just overall just hard compression, and I'm blending both of those in to get a little more edge, a little more urgency out of the vocal, but also keeping it like flat and consistent and just filling in like that lower level stuff. So that I do pretty much on everything. That's kind of how I approach vocal compression. And
so it's like compression is saturation. It's like the same thing for you, basically.
Yeah. It's just which one is going to achieve what it needs to end up as. And then
what does the LA2A do that the 1176 doesn't do?
I think it's just the way I use it. So it's just like a slower. It's slower, just a smoother, keeping that vocal generally flat, and then I can add in like this body with it. And the 1176 is how I get more of the dynamics out of the vocal, whether I want more or less. I'm doing that with the 1176.
Got it. So it's almost like the LA2A is kind of like the low end of the saturation, whereas the 1176 is more of like the brighter, mid-rangey part of the saturation.
Yeah, it can be. And again, sometimes I have to de-es the 1176 because it just starts getting things too bright. And I'm leaving the transients in like on purpose. So it makes sense that I then have to de-es that sometimes. But that, again, is like I can kind of undo any compression that was done with tracking by letting those transients through with the 1176 and kind of rebuild a scaled down transient on top of the vocal track, if that makes any sense. It's like I have a flat vocal track and then I'm adding in transients with the 1176 track just by letting them through. So in some ways it's like uncompressing, but I can't say I'm trying to do that. It's just the way it sounds good to me.
That's such a cool technique.
It's probably weird. Yeah.
No. It sounds like kind of typical, but kind of new. Like, I don't know. It's like a mixture of like things I'm familiar with and like a new way of looking at it and using it in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
I love it. And I guess you're de-essing. You have some sort of like processing at the end after all those things where they're kind of like, fanning out into an auxiliary.
Yeah. So then all the lead vocals will show up on the lead vocal bus, and there's another LA2A there, which
why does every Monday
it's hitting like -3, like -3. Yeah,
LA2As are like good for like that glue thing,
Yeah, I feel like you kind of had to have that. It took me a while to add that on there. I used to not touch that lead vocal bus once I had it set, but I found that putting that on there just really kind of makes it sit where it needs to sit. But again, I don't look at it like I'm not trying to compress the vocal. It's like I just need to do that to keep it right where it's at without jumping out too much. But I don't want to sound further back in the track. I want to keep it right up front. So I don't know. It's a weird approach, but it's just what works.
I got you. Yeah, I feel I look at like front to back as more of like how dry versus how wet it is. I guess more than I would look at like what a compressor does versus what a compressor doesn't do.
Yeah,
so I guess we each.
I just look at. I mean, a compressor will kind of add length to things or shorten things, but to me, if I want something to sound further back, I usually have to compress it pretty hard just to let it sound more tucked in and in that back corner.
Yeah, because you kind of when you choke something, it sounds like it just doesn't have that as much like upfrontness.
Yeah,
I get it. What else did I want to ask? Oh, do you have like a preferred like de-esser? Are you de-essing a lot? Because I feel like de-essing is like. That's like something that people, me included, are like struggling with is like finding the right de-esser for the right, vocalist.
There's a lot of them, and for a while the Waves de-esser worked for me, and then at some point it just didn't do it. And then I started using the Sibilants, and that one works pretty good. Who makes that one?
I think that's also Waves.
Is it? Yeah. I don't even know where that. It must be Waves because it just kind of showed up one day.
It was like a free Black Friday thing. I didn't get it because I was
organic resynthesis. Yeah, I don't know.
Because of like
it is Waves. Yeah.
I just didn't want to get it because of the way I'm on version 9 of Waves and I didn't want to like mess with my
system. And then you can't do 10 without I know it's pretty annoying. So that works pretty good. On this one I'm using the UAD Precision De-esser, which is newer for me. I started using that this past year. I never paid any attention to it, and then I tried it once and it works really good, so I'm using that on this.
If I ever go UAD,
now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of them. The sibilance one is pretty good, though. I think you can get away with it.
Nice. Let's talk about mastering. So do you have like specific mastering engineers that you usually work with? I guess we're like dropping out of the sauce segment. This is an awesome sauce segment. Thank you so much
Awesome
for
sauce. There
like
you go.
doing the stuff I couldn't even figure out how to do. So I appreciate you like taking the podcast to the next level with the interactive sauce segment. Thank you for that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So for mastering, I do have guys that I go to. Mike Collegian at Rogue Planet Mastering. He's been doing a lot of my stuff. He does a lot of the rock stuff. Sam Moses did this one. I think he was on your podcast. Actually.
Yeah, Sam's awesome.
This is the first song he did for me, and I mean he crushed it. It sounds awesome. I hadn't used him before that, but the band found him, and the band was like, "Hey, we're gonna try a new guy." And
that's
yeah,
so
he
cool
killed
to
it.
hear. Yeah, he's an amazing person. I like. You should listen to that interview. It's just not even like, it's not even really about mastering or gear or anything. It's just like his philosophy on life and like how he got to where he is. So he's a very introspective
I've
person.
seen his
I learned a lot from
Instagram
him.
videos. He's got a lot. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it
Yeah,
out. He's got good ears. So
Have
Yeah,
you
that
heard
was
their
cool.
podcast? Have you heard him and Matt's podcast?
no, I haven't. No,
So it's a mastering podcast.
I don't
but
think I was where he had a podcast.
Yeah, it's called the Attack and Release Show, and
Cool, I like
him
it.
and Matt Garber, who's also been on my show, and they're cool. It's like it's different than my show. It's like a completely different kind of approach to podcast, but I really like it. I listen to it every once in a while.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, but you never master your own mixes. I'm assuming.
I don't. I mean, what I send out has, like a reference limiter, and I feel like it's good enough to put out. But so I just consider that like, here's my mix with my, I guess, mastering on it, and then here's the pre-master file, so you can send it somewhere else. But
So you give like the mastering engineer a reference of what you think it could get to.
if they want it, they usually don't ask. Sam actually asked on this. He said, "Let me hear what you guys are listening to." So he got mine. And then he just made his is like way louder, and it sounds
Really?
great. Yeah, louder than I would have done it, but it sounds great streaming. So
Yeah, I was listening on Spotify, and I think Spotify normalizes the audio, and I was like, "Whoa, this is loud."
yeah, it's loud. It was a loud master when I got it back, but I don't know. He knows what he's doing. It sounds good.
How loud are your mixes when you send them off to mastering?
When they go to mastering, they're probably like minus 15. Lufs.
So
minus
you
15.
leave some room. You leave some room for them to do their magic.
There's some room, yeah. I mean, the reference mixes that go out are like minus 10, minus 11. But, Mike, kind of my go-to guy, he's like, I don't care as long as it's not clipping, But he usually doesn't make it too much louder. He'll kind of leave it at the level that I send it to him at. So it depends. But I don't think they're too concerned with having room now. I think they're just guiding that overall level to be appropriate for streaming, which to me is like, it's kind of a mystery. I tried to understand it, and just like, you know what? I'm not a mastering engineer, so.
Yeah, leave it to them.
But you know what?
That's the
I
best.
sent out a mix recently, and one of the notes I got back was like, hey, this is like louder than some other songs. Is it too loud to go to mastering? Which is the first time I heard that, like thinking that I actually sent the mix out that loud, but that was an accident. But that's just how I send them out. But no, it doesn't go to mastering that loud. They get their own version.
Yeah. Well, all your saturation, all your little tricks are giving your songs an already loud place to start from for the mastering engineer, which is really dope.
Yeah, and I don't even really care about loudness. I mean, I do care that on Spotify it's not going to sound like a little mix, and I want it to have
Right.
bottom end and be pretty full. But I don't really chase levels. I make it loud because if God forbid you send a track to an artist to listen to and it's not loud, they get a little concerned.
Right.
But other than that, I don't really care about how loud it is. Just want it to sound good. I'll turn it up,
Yeah, totally. What do you expect to get from the mastering engineer that you maybe don't think you put in the mix?
I don't know. I mean, I think, like I said, I think how I send it out is kind of how it should sound. I mean, they always make it sound better. I like bottom end, so I I might not push too much bottom end in my mix and just kind